Convicted murderer Oscar Pistorius will be released on parole under strict conditions today. The Blade Runner became eligible for parole in March of last year after serving half of his 13-year sentence for the murder of his girlfriend, Reeva Steenkamp. Linda Mnisi joins me now live from the Atteridgeville Correctional Centre. Linda, very good morning to you. A lot of expectations today, but the one thing we do know is that Oscar Pistorius has been restricted from speaking to the media.
Absolutely, and we're expecting this to be a very, strict operation as well, and that maybe members of the media will not even get a glance of Oscar Pistorius as he leaves the Atteridgeville Correctional Facility. As you can see behind me, many of the media houses have already camped outside this facility to try and get a glimpse of him exiting this correctional facility, which he has spent most of his prison sentence in. You'd recall that his murder conviction came as a result of the Supreme Court of Appeal ruling after, of course, the culpable homicide conviction was taken on appeal by the state. That particular conviction came with a heftier sentence of 13 years, 5 months. As you indicated earlier, Mpho, he's already served half of that particular sentence and will today be released on parole. Some of the strict conditions you speak about is particularly regarding the media that you see behind us. He's been barred from actually speaking to the media. Oscar Pistorius' trial is known, Mpho, for having been the first in South African history to be broadcast, presided over by Judge Thokozile Masipa. You'll remember she is the judge that acquitted him on the murder charge and in fact found him guilty for culpable homicide. The state appealed her ruling, taking it to the Supreme Court of Appeal, which then found that Oscar Pistorius did in fact murder Reeva Steenkamp under the principle of dolus eventualis. Quite a number of things taking place in that trial, things that got South Africa speaking, but also the international community, the international media who came all the way to South Africa to broadcast that particular trial. So some of those strict conditions, Paul, will include not speaking to the media, but also not leaving Pretoria without informing officials. Quite stringent measures, and this perhaps is also an indication of what the parole is. It does not necessarily mean that Oscar Pistorius is officially a free man. It just means that he's now transitioning into community supervision, which is part of the process of rehabilitation when you look at the manner in which the Department of Correctional Services in South Africa is structured incarceration and serving sentence. So he'll be moving to a high-end waterkloof house where, of course, he'll serve the remainder of his sentence. It's expected to lapse in 2029. Mpho?
What we've also seen is some of the reaction to this decision from Reeva Steenkamp's family. Mrs. Steenkamp speaking quite a great deal about whether her beliefs around Oscar Pistorius, saying that she doesn't believe that he has shown remorse and that he's even fully rehabilitated, but forgives him nevertheless, and also says that she's also concerned about the safety of other women, which raises a very important aspect of this entire process, looking at the victim's family and how they have reacted to the news. What are some of the expectations on that front when it comes to the rehabilitation process outside of prison and the issue around anger management and gender-based violence?
Of course, Mpho, the Steenkamp family has always been against, the decision to release Oscar Pistorius. They've always, opposed, his applications for parole, and this is obviously not sitting well with that particular family, who's obviously believing or believes that he has not been rehabilitated, he's not remorseful, has not shown any remorse. But you also speak to, the correctional services in terms of, how they approach incarceration, and they tell you that the approach that, the Correctional Services Department takes is not necessarily one of punishment, but one of rehabilitation. And obviously, this does not sit well for a family that has lost a loved one. I mean, you would have heard when the representatives of the Steenkamp family came to the facility behind me during those parole hearings, saying that even Reeva Steenkamp's dad, Barry, who has since passed away, died of a broken heart because, of course, they continue to miss Reeva Steenkamp and will miss her for the rest of their lives. While Oscar Pistorius has been living incarcerated in this facility, at least he still has his life and and has a future ahead of him. Right now he's being released on parole, which means that he's moving to much better conditions. So obviously, Mpho, this is something that the Steenkamp family has not welcomed and is not taking lightly. I spoke to one of our sources yesterday in the correctional services, saying that one of the things that they're trying to avoid, Mpho, is releasing Oscar Pistorius and giving him a hero's welcome, him being released, in a heroic manner, which would obviously offend the Steenkamp family. And that is why the process of releasing him this morning will be a tight one. The operation is going to be a tight one. They're trying by all means to ensure that, it's done in a manner that will still dignify the process, but have told us that there might, at a later stage, be communication that may be released, of course, maybe even communication that is released around whether or not Oscar Pistorius is at home. On the ground, we're hearing that officially at this particular point as I speak to you, he has not yet arrived at home, and we're told that outside his uncle's home in Waterkloof, there is already a media contingent that are, of course, watching closely this operation, watching and waiting to see what exactly will happen and how he will get home, how, of course, he will be brought home. At the moment, we have been seeing very little movement at the gate with correctional services officials entering the facility. It's presumed at this point that these are the people that are clocking in at work. We've seen a police vehicle stopping outside, but obviously, not much has been made of it because, the driver came alone and there was no person inside of that vehicle. So we continue to watch how the correctional services will particularly handle the release of Oscar Pistorius when he starts, of course, the process of community supervision.
Very well, Linda. Mnisi, we will, of course, be continuing throughout the course of this morning to bring viewers into the latest developments around that release. Oscar Pistorius, the former Blade Runner, being released from the Atteridgeville Correctional Centre this morning and moving into his uncle's home, who has agreed to be his custodian. So we'll bring you those developments throughout the course of the morning.